guarantees. Joining us now in the Element Well studios, the Commissioner for the Mississippi Northern District Transportation, Commissioner John Caldwell. Good morning, Commissioner. Thanks for coming in today.
Good morning, Gerard. It's good to be here.
Yes, sir. So we got a little weather out there, which, of course, is affecting traffic and roads, as it always does.
Well, I drove through a little bit of it today, and we had a highway fatality up in DeSoto County this morning, early morning. Hadn't got any details on it, but, you just hate to hear it. Everybody needs to stay safe out there. And it's actually work zone safety awareness, and so especially in these work zones, we need to make sure we're cognizant of those workers that are out there on their feet.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So let's start with a brief update. What's going on in your district? Well, first, we have 3 districts in the state, the northern, the central, and the southern. You are the commissioner for the Northern District that is elected by the people, as is the case here in Mississippi. What's the update from your district?
Yeah, in the northern 33 counties, that compares with 22 counties in the central district. So we're fighting for our piece of the pie. And, as I went around the Northern District, everybody thinks the Northern District is getting shorted. And went down to the Southern District, met some good folks down there, and they thought they were getting shorted. So started realizing that maybe we look at the state kind of like we do in high school sports, and we think of the north half and the south half.
Yeah.
And so, most of the money is going south because it's going to a central and southern district. And then the ones looking up north, they see the state in the north half, south half, but it's actually 3 districts. So that makes a difference in perspective for sure.
That makes sense. So any particular notable projects you've got underway right now that you can provide status on?
Well, we're hoping to complete the Quarter V project. That's basically a 4-lane connector, building a new highway across to connect Toyota in Blue Springs with Toyota in Huntsville, and that project is ahead of schedule and may be completed this year if the weather holds out.
Yeah, okay. All right, so money is being poured upon the state from the federal government, much of which is designated for roads and bridges, that part of the American Rescue Plan. Then we got more money coming from the bipartisan infrastructure plan. How exactly would that affect you and what you do and how you allocate money because of that source? How does that work?
Yeah, it's not quite as advertised. The federal money is Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act is more commonly known as.
Yeah.
That's been throwing a lot of big numbers around, like $3.5 billion and things like that. But in reality, it's about $150 million this year, and maybe up to $200 million by the 5th year. When they start throwing in the big numbers, they're talking about old money and new money, and combining it over 5 years. So it sounds bigger, but we've got a lot of challenges, and that $100+ million is good. It's better than not getting it.
Yeah, but
it's barely going to cover inflation.
Interesting. Okay, because sure was a lot of fanfare, that's how we say, associated with passing of that legislation.
Absolutely.
At the federal level.
And very misleading, but at the same time, we had to have some additional funds, and we are grateful that it came up.
Yeah. All right. So, what about at the state level? We just completed the session, the 2022 session. And to what extent does the legislature, how does it get involved in allocation of funding to the Department of Transportation? Because it's a separate fund. Right. Most of its monies come from fuel taxes, and then the federal government. It's not a general fund.
We are a special fund agency, and we rely on that fuel tax, which is not sufficient at this point in time to keep us going and keep the maintenance up. So we have to deal with other sources of funds, and they came through a little bit for us this year. They allocated some money that is not fuel tax money, which is a little bit unusual for them. So I'm kind of proud for them that they made a step, but I'm not overly happy about it. I started looking back at the session, and I think, if anybody's happy about the session, you're probably a teacher or a marijuana proponent. If you're a dope smoking teacher, you're probably doubly happy. But if for transportation, we're a little short. And so I'm not happy with the amount of money, but I am happy for the consideration. And
Okay, so what could the legislature do different, given that it's a special fund agency? What could they do
Well, it's a special
different?
fund agency only because we choose to make it a special fund agency. There are states that don't do that. It's not a requirement.
Right.
So
It's the way it's been structured for quite some time, though, I believe, right?
yes.
So would you advocate for combining it into the general fund?
We need some diverse revenue, whatever source that takes.
Okay.
I mean, I don't do legislation, so
Yeah.
I would be open to many ideas. Certainly, fuel tax gets brought up a lot as far as increasing it. The problems with that right now is it's dropping off because of electric vehicles, fuel mileage, different combinations of factors, people driving less miles.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that leave us hanging if we totally rely on fuel tax. So we do need some diversified revenue on how to address our long-term needs.
Okay, so diversified revenue, does that mean you would support the idea of allocating sales tax and or income tax revenue to the Department of Transportation? Those are the two major sources of revenue to the general fund.
They are major sources. I'm not a fan of income tax revenue because I'm more of a fan of getting rid of the income tax and dealing with the growth that comes with that. There's some other funding sources that we can look at, but I'm open to a lot of ideas, and diversifying that revenue is important for us.
Okay. What about an increase in the fuel tax? What's your position on that? That's been talked about quite a bit, never got any traction.
Yeah, I haven't taken a big stance on the fuel tax, mostly because I don't have the authority to raise it, lower it, or anything like that. I was definitely not a fan of fuel tax holiday. I thought that was kind of beyond reality for us. But the fuel tax is a source that we need to we'll keep using that as a source that we'll still have, fuel-powered vehicles for a long time. I mean, it's not going to 100% electric, and so we're going to have to deal with the fuel tax revenue issue, whether it's increase or a different source or different splits. Mm-hmm. A lot of our fuel tax doesn't come to us. The misnomer is that we get all the fuel tax. But we don't get all the fuel tax. It's split up, and some of the counties get the money, and that's good programs too. I'm not advocating to take that, but if there is an increase, does the split stay the same? Does it change? There's a lot of variables that come into that.
So some of that fuel tax does in fact get diverted to the local, certainly the county level.
Yes.
I'm not sure about the municipal level, but I know the county level. I think that is true. But they also collect ad valorem taxes on car tags as well for that purpose.
Yes, yeah, and the county does have some more diversified revenue, and now I think the counties are getting some of the internet sales tax. So there's a lot of good sources for them out there that's helping the counties with a healthier financial state for them, and proud for them. I'm not trying to get any of their money.
Sure. But in general, you just feel like that more revenue is needed to kind of meet what you think are the objectives.
Well, it's not just what I think. I mean, we know that we need $400 million annually to keep up with our road maintenance additional.
Who's
the MDOT. MDOT needs $400 million annually to catch up with existing road maintenance needs.
Okay.
That's
and I've seen Commissioner Brad White talk about this as well, and he's talked about the methodology used by the Department of Transportation to determine proper maintenance routine and schedules and the intervals there.
Well, and even beyond that, the 65-397 is legislation.
Okay.
And they said, we're going to do these roads. We're going to four-lane certain roads. And people say, we're on the list. Well, you're on that list. You're on a $4.4 billion list of roads. And so tens of millions of dollars looks good, but it doesn't cover a $4.4 billion list. And those estimates are pre-Biden inflation estimates.
Okay.
So you start talking about the inflation we're currently working under, those estimates are going to go up. So, unless the legislation says we're going to take that law and do away with it, we have to make our plans based on those funding sources. So we look at it and we say we need more money. And they say, you're just asking for more money just to be asking for more money. I said, no, 65-397 says we need more money.
Okay. You need to explain that a little bit more when we come back. Can you stay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we got Transportation Commissioner John Caldwell in the Element Well studio. Stay with us. No, we've got Transportation Commissioner for the Northern District, John Caldwell, in the Element Well studios. Okay, so John, take that slow again if you don't mind, sir. This bill you're talking about.
It's just basically the four-lane highway bill. It's
Okay.
called Vision 21.
Yeah. Okay.
Commonly known as Vision 21.
All right.
But it's everybody says my highway's on that list.
I'm familiar with that.
And
yeah.
sure, they're on that list, but we're not funding it. So I didn't come up with that law. That was done way before my time, before the current lieutenant governor, before the current speaker. I mean, that was done a ways back.
Yeah.
So
I recall the bill.
either do away with the law or fund the roads that we need to fund.
So what you're saying is that we don't have enough money flowing into the Department of Transportation to actually adhere to that law, to comply with that law.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, and for that matter, the money that we have, even with the new federal money, the new state money, you mentioned North, Central, Southern.
Yeah.
North Mississippi's three top priorities, Highway 15, Highway 55, or I-55, and Highway 7, they're all $100 to $200 million projects.
Okay.
I mean, getting $40 million is great, but so far the money we got this year is one-time money. With maybe, if you look at a little funny, the exception might be the money that they're going to do the federal match with.
Yeah.
But it's still not committed. We got to come back next year and ask for it again, and come back next year and ask for it again. The only continuing money option we had this year, the House had passed a bill to pay the debt service off for MDOT.
Yeah.
Now that would have done us a big favor because that's $73 million a year. That's debt service I didn't generate, but it would be recurring money. That doesn't include an increase in tax money. The fuel tax doesn't go up, but our revenues go up $73 million a year. So over 10 years, you're talking about $730 million. Then you start doing big projects and do a $100 million project in North Mississippi and $100 million in Central Mississippi and $100 million in Southern Mississippi. But today, with the money we're getting, we can't do that. But now I will say this. We're not prepared for some of those big projects. So in defense of the legislature, this is kind of challenge money, and I'll gladly accept the challenge. But I looked at some of those very projects in North Mississippi, and we don't have the engineering finished on them. So the challenge is we got to get the engineering finished, or we can't build them anyway. So
have you directly spoken to members of the legislature the way you're speaking now about these concerns, these needs?
Yes, and absolutely, that was a highlight of the session for me because they've all got open ears, and they're listening, they're communicating. From the lieutenant governor down, from the speaker down, the governor.
Yep.
Everybody listens. We have the conversations. So we're moving in the right direction, and I think some of the monies that they have released kind of indicate that. So, again, I don't want to seem ungrateful. I'm as grateful as a runt mutt on the back porch, getting scraps thrown to them. I mean, I'm gonna take those scraps and be glad to get them. But when you're talking about $40 million or $30 million or even $100 million and you got $4.4 billion worth of challenges, we're not meeting those challenges.
Okay. And who has identified those challenges as you describe them? Who sat down? I mean, is there a list of that, for example? Is there
the $4.4 billion?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is on the legislation. That is that law I mentioned.
Okay, that's what we're talking about back again. Okay, just making sure.
The maintenance needs are estimates for hitting a certain standard of maintenance.
Yeah.
If you look on my Facebook page, Commissioner John Caldwell, and it shows some of the conditions of some of our highways. It's atrocious.
Yeah.
It's not all of them. And we have a percentage that's bad and a percentage that's okay and a percentage that's good. But we need a percentage that's good to go way up.
Yeah.
And we need that percentage bad to go way down.
So to those who would say, well, the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure that the money that is being allocated, is being received, is being spent as absolutely efficiently as possible and productively as possible before we throw any new money at it. How do you feel about that?
That's exactly what we need to do. I mean, that's a valid argument.
Okay.
And it doesn't take away from the fact that a big bureaucracy with 2,000 employees is always going to have some fat and some things that you don't like.
Yeah.
The audits that we've had have proven that we're doing things right. They just continually come out with good, clean audits. We have requirements that we have to meet to do our business, and we've got good people doing good work to get there. But that doesn't mean we can't have improvements. I mean, that's one thing that the commissioners want to do every time they get elected every 4 years is to come in and make it better the next 4 years. That's what the new executive director wants to come in and make it better. So, we want to make it better, but we can't sit back and just wait on somebody to be happy before we start making some improvements. So we need to start getting that funding to make those improvements.
Okay. So have you proposed to the legislature? I know you said you're not a lawmaker, but have you proposed to the legislature any kind of ideas on how to generate more revenue, or have you just generally kind of stuck with the narrative that I think we need a diverse source of revenue?
No, we've talked about it,
okay.
and we've talked about it in great detail. I think the House plan to pay off our debt was a huge deal. No increase in fuel tax, but a huge increase for MDOT to make some real long-term decisions. That thing passed with just very few opposing votes, and some of those people think going to the bathroom is
how does paying off debt, pardon for interrupting, how does that generate more revenue for you? I mean, it perhaps it gives you more facility, more debt facility, more capacity.
The bill actually did away with our ability to generate more debt.
Okay.
So that was the conservative side. We're going to pay your debt off, but you can't generate that debt again.
Okay, so no revenue from debt.
No
proceeds from debt. It's not really
right,
revenue.
So we're not going to go get additional debt. We're going to spend that money.
Okay.
But when you have people in the legislature that everything's a principle, even going to get a drink of water is a principle, and then we got everything's not a principle, and Ronald Reagan's not a rhino, but you got people that act that way, and we can't get work done if everybody's just obstinate.
Okay.
We had a real solution there. That's in 10 years. That's $730 million. Now, there were some red herrings and chasing rabbits over on the Senate side that made them uncomfortable with the bill.
Yep.
I think we might be able to get them comfortable in the next 12 months. So,
which bill are we talking about?
The one that does away with the debt service and gets the $73 million.
Okay.
The House came up with it. They kind of worked it, and then it was a House bill. The Senate kind of got it late, and so they had some concerns, and they never got through with all their concerns.
Okay.
But I think we might be able to get through those concerns. So I think next session we need to look at that again and say, hey, how about that $73 million debt service? Let's pay it off. Let's enable MDOT to spend the money and get this stuff done. But we still have that challenge money that they've given us. We've got to finish the engineering. We got to get the projects ready. We got to tell them we can do them.
But it seems like you're indicating that you don't have the money to pay for that. What it would be $4.4 billion and to complete the projects as called for by that bill.
Still wouldn't get them all done, no.
Yeah.
But we could get some of the priorities. I mean, right now we can't even get the top 10 priorities.
Okay.
Much less the entire bill. So
do you think, what if the legislature just said, well, geez, we don't have the money to do this, and rather than raising more money, raising taxes, allocating more, we just repeal this bill? What about that?
That's an option they have.
Okay.
If we all need to look at the long term.
Yeah.
And we do kind of fuss through the session and get things that are not quite the way we want them, and then we look to the next session and we fight through and try to get them away. But MDOT and the legislature needs to look, what are our roads going to be like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now? And so those kind of things have to be addressed, and I think just repealing the law is not a viable option. But if they need to refine it, I mean, there's some highways that probably look like they were something you needed to do 20 years ago, but now with the population shifts and things, they may say, you know what, maybe we don't need to totally four-lane this highway or that highway. But right now it's still showing on the books to do it. So either change it or let's do it.
My sense is, Commissioner, that the prevailing sentiment of the average Mississippian would be, I'm for improved roads and bridges, except if it's going to cost me more money, I'm not.
Yeah, typically I look at it this way. If you get in a room and say, how many of you wouldn't mind paying a little more tax to fix your road? They'll raise their hand. I said, now how many of you wouldn't mind paying a few more taxes, but we fix your neighbor's road instead? And the hands don't go up. So it's very selfish in some of the ways we look at it. But, the worst road is going to be fixed this year. And guess what? After we fix it, there's going to be a new worse road.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a never-ending endeavor. There's no question about that. It's just that I think there are a lot of people that seem to be fairly dug in against any kind of increases, especially on the fuel tax, which is the primary source of revenue under the present model.
We get $73 million annually without an increase in fuel tax if they pay the debt off.
Okay. Not sure I see why, except you're talking about the legislature taking general fund money to go pay your debt off, which would free up.
Take the general fund surplus and pay that off.
And you're not paying on the principal and interest.
Right.
Out of your money.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. I got you. We appreciate you coming on. Transportation Commissioner for the Northern District, John Caldwell, on Middays. We'll be right back.